Andrew Wilson and Muslim debater Daniel Hukikachu collide in Nashville, Tennessee this November 15th and 16th at DebateCon 6 on whether or not Christian or Islamic values are better for society. You don't want to miss it. Grab your tickets by clicking on this link right now so you don't miss out on this epic debate conference featuring that debate and many others. Hey everybody, tonight we are debating whether or not feminism is making dating worse, and we are starting right now with CounterPoints opening statement. Thanks for being with us. CounterPoints, Conor, the floor is all yours.
Thank you kindly. Yep. And then I wrote this down. Feminism is oftentimes defined as the legal and social equality between men and women, and I think that's a potentially noble goal, but we have to recognize that we are different genders and or different sexes, that we have complementary but sometimes opposed roles, and that we need to define those roles. It's pretty clear that if we look at statistics in reference to inceldom or volceldom or men going their own way or the red pill, that something is wrong in reference to the current dating scene. It seems like men are being left behind. It seems like they're not able to get partners. It seems like they're not able to get married. It seems like they're not able to achieve the lives that they want. And I think this is partially because of developing social norms. Men are in a passive role because they're afraid of being blasted on social media. They're also afraid of being investigated criminally or fired for sexual misconduct. And while we can look to some things improving over the past 2 decades in reference to male sexual conduct, we can also understand that maybe there's some areas where we've gone too far. The fear in corporate spaces in particular is palpable. And weirdly enough, oftentimes women are the ones who are suffering. There are plenty of women who are making tons of money and succeeding in the corporate space or in education or academia, and yet they can't find eligible young men to approach them in order to court them, in order to marry them, and in order to have kids. And so women and men are both suffering from the social conventions that we're in. They there's also an additional thing here in reference to women prioritizing the career over courtship. And what's going on is we now have open complaints in social media and in the news media that women are making too much money. Women are too well educated. They cannot find men who make more money than them or are better educated than them, and then therefore they're choosing to be single. This is obviously socially dysfunctional. It's obviously hurting our society. And I stand by the premise that feminism is hurting the dating scene.
You got it? We'll kick it right over to Jen.
Okay, I need to share my screen.
Wow, you made a PowerPoint. Epic. All right, I'm ready for you.
All right, so hi, nice to see everyone. Assuming I'm starting right now, so I'm just gonna skip real quick. If people want to check out my channel, go nuts. It's in the description. Have a unique way to approach debates, yada, 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 but just be clear, I can go into it in detail if you're interested, but let's get to the topic at hand. Is feminism ruining dating? Well, if you are used to watching my show, you'll know that we're pretty much always reducing stuff to process relational primitives. So how are we going to get to a process relational primitive that has 4 waves in under 150 years? Not realistic. So how are we going to do it? Look over meta, wider scope, better comparison basis, better conclusions, stronger arguments. So what are the 4 waves of feminism? So ChatGPT helped me out on this one. So score 1, chilling and taking it easy and winning. Anyway, I largely agree with them. It's not a topic I've studied very much, but I think even those who are familiar with it will agree that there are 4 waves. I'm just going to slide this down. Okay, so yeah, here we go. Marriage, divorce, we're looking at broad type of patterns so that we can come to conclusions that are then hopefully at some point addressed by the other side, but who knows? where any of this is going, but we're all having fun. Really happy to be here and glad to meet everyone's first time that I've met everyone here on the panels except James, so I'm excited about this. It's a very challenging debate because how do we actually define the term? Well, we don't. We just look at how people have been defining themselves, namely through marriage and divorce. We want to sort of vaguely presuppose that the point of dating is marriage, and if we're having a downtrend in marriage, well, maybe something's not working out so well on the level of dating. It appears that marriage rates have steadily decreased since second wave feminism. Trends are not equal to reality, but I'd love to hear what my opponents think about this particular trend. Okay, nearly half of US adults say dating has gotten harder for most people in the last 10 years. Do aggregate anecdotes matter? Well, yeah, because we generally want people to be feeling optimistic about the future, because we don't build a great future if we don't believe in it. So we got to ask, like, what's the point of dating? That's a lot less nebulous than feminism, though it's still pretty dang nebulous, because the notion of romantic love has only existed since the late 1700s, and proportional to the total timeline of civilization, this is a mere drop in the pond. So we want to get a little more evidence because it's not obvious enough yet that I'm totally right. It's important to note the potential drawbacks with one's methodologies, especially if one wants to make generalized type statements. It's just really easy to misreport data, and that isn't necessarily an issue, but when it's not taken into account, then we have to sort of have this massive grain of salt where it's like, not sure the level of credulity that I'm going to be lending. But in the case of self-reported negative or positive desire, that's an acceptable form of epistemology in my worldview. So I wanted to mention that about romantic love, because it's not just, I don't want to dogpile feminism. That's passe, it's just perhaps too easy to just dogpile feminism. So anyway, moving on. Maybe the reason dating has been slowly going down the shitter is because feminism is engendering competition between men and women, when what would lead things to get better would be collaboration. Real quick, if anyone cares, I just put this together. It's not really my specialty, but my philosophy can be applied to many things. So just, keep in mind that one discipline mastered is better than many disciplines semi-perfected. But if you can only do the latter, at least do something. All right, so I'm looking forward to the debate. Hopefully we'll actually go somewhere semi-interesting. I definitely don't want it to be like aggressive or anything, hoping we can have as many teaching opportunities and learning opportunities. Well, I'd love to hear, the deeper side of people's beliefs and everything else. So thanks. And looking forward to hearing what the other side has to say. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. If it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate Modern Day Debate, folks, I'm your host, Dr. James Coons. We are a neutral channel hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, as we have many debates coming up. In fact, our two-day debate conference, DebateCon 6, is happening in Nashville, Tennessee, November 15th and 16th. That's about a little bit over 2 weeks away. If you haven't yet, grab your tickets. They're linked in the description box. I'm going to pin the tickets link at the top of the chat. What are you waiting for? It's going to be 2 days of fiery debates, and you can meet your favorite debater in person, in the flesh, shake their hand, say hello. With that, we're going to jump into the opening from our no side for tonight. Thank you for being with us, William and Garrett. Garrett, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, James. Will, can you share your screen?
Yeah, let me know when you see it. I'm going to be presenting his slides tonight.
All right.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so opening, sorry, I was getting situated. Apologies. So I think life is pretty complicated. Feminism, it can be used to simplify dating by serving as a filter for men and women to help them determine who is a good match. There have been some changes in gender roles, it seems like, at least with quite a few relationships, marriages, a fair percentage of men and women. I think it's resulted in a more dynamic and emotionally fulfilling relationship. Men and women, however, should be cognizant of what they are looking for in a relationship. And we want to have a focus on enhanced dialogue. Sorry. Now, political ideology does matter now more than it did 15 years ago, but compatibility is still the primary factor. And we need open and honest conversations about emotions, thoughts, preferences, and values. It helps to build the foundation for a relationship more so than whether or not it's a traditional marriage. Different generations will have different experiences, but there are many of the younger generations seem to prefer the influence of feminism. That's just based on the research that I was looking at. And what I would recommend is maintaining respectful communication, no hostility or aggression. How do you navigate your differences? Among other strategies, focus on what your partner wants, balance it with what you want. If you're with someone who wants a traditional marriage and you want a traditional marriage, then go for it. Don't put yourself into a box. Look at what you value, compare it to others. Boxing yourselves and ourselves, but each other in is counterproductive. Feminism equaling bad is an easy scapegoat, and dating is far more complex than just pointing the finger at a perceived enemy. I think that there are far bigger, more prevalent root causes, such as the internet, social media, dating apps, and the high cost of living are far more impacting to modern dating than feminism. Case in point, one of the main causes of divorce, I think it's roughly around 37%, is financial issues. And of course, infidelity and conflicts are up there too. So I think maybe more marriage counseling would be beneficial. Teach them conflict resolution. That's it. I wanted to keep it short. Go for it, Will.
Thank you, Garrett. All right, I'm still sharing my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so feminism, did it really destroy dating? I would say no. And in fact, it very well may have improved the dating process. So first, I know one of the conflicts we're going to have in this debate is, what is feminism exactly? So I try to get a pretty based source that I hope we could all agree upon, Merriam-Webster. The definition is the belief and advocacy of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. And it's important to recognize that it is not in favor of feminine superiority. It is not trying to dominate the male class. They are trying to become an equal in these different fields. Now, real question is dating worse? And how can we know, is dating worse? And I think this is the same source of information Jen was actually presenting, which is a Pew Research study from 2020. Well, according to most people, no, dating is not worse. Not almost 20% say it's easier, and 30% say it's about the same. And then 47% of adults say it's worse. So most people don't think it's worse. But let's entertain the reason why almost half of people do think it is worse. I think there's a lot more credibility in the claim that dating apps and technology are the disruptors of current dating situations rather than feminism, right? Because apps like Tinder and Bumble and social media are all tools that amplify hyper-selective and status-seeking behaviors, which result in very shallow relationships with your partner because you're focused on appearance and status symbols rather than a real personal connection. So let's not get correlation versus causation confused. Feminism has been evolving next to technology and social media advancements. So I think it's a lot more reasonable to look at social media and technology as the driver. And so does another Pew Research study from 2023, where most people did specify technology as a driver in unrealistic expectations of partners in different relationships. So this has also been shown in surveys as well, that apps are the real driver. They reward novelty and looks rather than equality or empathy or personal connection. So now let's go back to feminism, right? What does the world look like from a dating perspective or a relationship perspective without feminism? Without feminism, we live in a world where men are going to be valued mainly for their income and status, right? Traditionally, that's what men are valued for. But in feminism, men are beyond just an income, right? They share the income responsibility with the women, right? Because we're equal opportunities now. And they also share more than that. They share emotional responsibility. And they are considered to have better communication skills with their partner and be better caregiving partner in terms of their children. So there's more abilities in the world of a man in the world of feminism. Also, without feminism, masculinity is meant to be stoic and dominant and emotionally detached. So we don't want to hear your emotions, men. We want a paycheck from you without feminism. But with feminism, for the man, we expand that definition, right? Feminist men can be nurturing fathers and supportive partners and very confident leaders. And they don't need to suppress their empathy and emotions just to fit the gender stereotype of a man. And obviously there are benefits to the women with feminism, but let's just lay it out in terms of how it would affect their dating prospects. Before, women were supposed to seek financial security from their partners in a patriarchal world rather than emotional connection. And in feminist world, females are supposed to be empowered to seek equality and respect rather than dependency on their partners. Basically, you say, women, you do not need a rich man. You deserve a respectful partner. And I think that's going to lead to a lot more prosperous and fulfilling relationship. And I believe that is my last point here. So I appreciate being here, and let's have a good dialogue.
Thank you very much for that as well. We're going to jump into the open discussion, but first, a couple of quick housekeeping things. Folks, if you did not know, as I had mentioned, DebateCon 6, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, it's going to be amazing. In addition to the tickets, you can get a signed photo of your favorite speaker, for example, Andrew Wilson, made by Jim Bob, Jake of Rattlesnake TV. If you click on the link in the description box for the Indiegogo crowdfund, this is a way of supporting the event because these are hard to put on, for real. You can also get a signed photo of your favorite speaker by checking out that Indiegogo crowdfund right now. With that, we're going to jump into the open dialogue. Thanks very much. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, if I may, one of the statistics that was presented during the openings was that most people don't think dating is worse. This is just statistically untrue. Okay, so 27% of men are reporting that they have no female sexual partners between age 18 to 30. 4% of the population, approximately, are homosexual males, which means that around a quarter of men are not having female sexual partners, even though they would probably like to. This is a 10% increase since 2008, which means that over the past 2 decades, that it's gotten substantively worse. I'll agree that social media, dating app hypergamy, where women have increased access to rich, attractive men, I think that this is skewing society in a super negative way, and that we are not foisting any responsibility onto women in order to have realistic expectations about their partners. And then also, one of the things that you said is, oh, well, feminism raised the bar in the dating world. Yeah, that's true. That's part of the problem. Women, because they have gendered expectations, they expect to make less money than their man. They expect to be taken care of. But women are pulling ahead academically in pulling ahead in income. How are men supposed to compete if women are dominating all these spheres through, equity or equality of the sexes? Also, final point before we get it going is you're saying like, oh, well, we have the ideal of, equality and not female supremacy. Okay, well, then let's try to get some equality in these areas. How about we have equality for female draft for the military? How about we get female representation in security work? How about we get female representation in workplace fatalities? How about we get female representation in suicide? How about we get female representation in homelessness? How about we get female representation in deaths of despair? This is bullshit. Men are still taking on the social burdens that they've always taken on, and women are taking on a privileged position within society where they get to have their cake and eat it too.
Wait, so you want more suicides?
I mean, I would expect that to be taken as facetious. No, I don't actually want increased female fatalities. But what I'm saying is women get to have their cake and eat it too. They get to have all of the benefits of pulling ahead in academia and in income, but they don't have to share any of the burden that males take on.
I'm sorry, I just thought it'd be funny to play into the sarcastic bit. I appreciate that. That was funny.
Because I think what you're trying to say is there should be less suicides for men rather than more suicides for women, right? And I think that's a very valid thing to want, right? Because we do want the equality, right? You're framing it in a very negative connotation that, oh, women should meet all the negative standards that men reach. And I think that is not in the spirit of what feminism is, and it doesn't meet the definition of feminism as well, because feminism is about having equality across all standards, especially in social society. And we do not want to simply make the quality of life of women worse and bring them down. We want to bring the quality of life men up and women up so they meet in a higher level.
Okay, but I think that we're kind of here to discuss what feminism is doing. And if you want to talk about meninism, you want to talk about like male advocacy, I'm all about that shit. However, I think that when we're sticking specifically to the topic, kind of the argument is like, oh, well, feminism has made dating better. But if we look at the stats for courtship, if we look at the stats for child rearing, if we look at the stats for any of this stuff, it's pretty clear that the past like decade and a half has been disastrous. And I would say that feminism has never been more socially popular.
I'm a little bit confused as to why you're saying like the bit about what was basically hookup culture, where you were talking about men wanting to have more sex but not being able to. Like that doesn't seem like it would be in line with feminism or meninism. Like I don't know how to pronounce that, but I guess it's the opposite.
Yeah, why would you think that's true, CounterPoints?
Well, I mean, I pulled up the stats. I could share it with you, but
I love that.
if we're just talking about like male virginity, though, if we're looking at the stats are pushing all the way back to like the 80s and the 70s. And I understand the sexual revolution was in the 1960s, but presuming that male virginity was relatively stable around 10%, which is what it seems to be historically. I'll go ahead and dig in and see if I can get some stats before 1980. But presuming, for the temporary sake of argument, that male virginity was less than 10% prior to the 2000s. Listen, I'm anti-promiscuity. I don't necessarily like promiscuity, but at the same time, if we have a quarter of the male population incapable of having any kind of sexual contact with females, we're actually in trouble. If you look at societies where like there's wanton violence, terrorism, all that kind of stuff, oftentimes it's a underprivileged male class that is perpetuating those acts of violence.
So one thing that I noticed is like you're focusing on a lot of the negative aspects of this idea of feminism, whereas I think looking at the positives too should also be examined. And I also don't like how
sorry, I'm like looking up stats and I also have to like mute myself repeatedly. So if you could yap for another minute while I look up stats, that
So
would be great.
the argument, like I can try to like put the argument in. Can you hear me okay? Like I can try to
you're
put
fine.
the argument a different way for you. It's like we take your point. It's an awesome point. We want everyone to have infinity rights and everything, but ultimately somebody has to be accountable to that. And it's like, historically, if you just sort of look into that, you have this thing with harems where one male dominates the sexual affection of many female, and female like, not that they like it, but they've tolerated it over the years. So it's like, how do you respond to that?
How is that an argument against feminism? Feminism says we
It's an
should not
argument-
have inequalities.
It's an
like
argument
that.
in favor of social engineering, that you're basically according rights without any associated social engineering.
So legal rights should be established in a way that benefits the society as a whole, including taking advantage of the value each of the citizens provide. And when you take serious rights away from people, you're taking their potential away from improving the society in a certain way. So if you're going to make your society a patriarchal society and you're taking women down a notch, taking their rights away, you're going to lose the opportunities that those women would provide your society. They're losing value.
Well, I
and
don't see
they
it
have
that
value
way
to
because
provide.
people are paying taxes and the taxes are giving the rights. And so we're essentially paying for our own rights.
I don't understand what that has to do with harems.
The argument is that your side leads to harems.
Yeah.
Your attitude on it leads to harems. So the question is, hey, is harems okay? And if it's not okay,
How does
that?
lead to harems?
Actually,
really
I want to
confused
back
that.
Jen up on this because this actually is backed up by and by the way, I was looking for stats on like virginity in the 1950s and 1960s, and they basically said that social stigma prevents accurate statistics during that time period. So people weren't, necessarily reporting what their virginity rates were, which makes sense. It was a fairly socially, sexually conservative culture. But backing Jen up, when it comes to one of the things that they found with like, the dating apps is that dating apps and equal arguments about female and male sexuality effectively led to a skewing within the dating pool. So when you have a socially enforced monogamous society, what typically happens is partners will pair off. But when you have a free-for-all sexual society where everybody can decide what they want to do and they have dating apps on top of that, typically what happens will the men who are highest status, highest in looks, highest in money, they will effectively have all of the dating opportunities, whereas like 70 to 80% of men who are on dating apps won't even get a single direct message. They won't even get a single thing. And so what's happening is a skewing of the hypergamy, where women effectively have top tier men have sexual access to tons of women. Women have tons of sexual access to top tier men, but then the average and below average men are getting almost no sexual access. That's what Jen's talking about with harems.
Well, I wouldn't say that's part of feminism, though. That's the
Why wouldn't it? It's the free choice of women to engage with their sexuality. That's their ability in order to, the cis heteropatriarchy would say, no, women, don't bang, the giga chad who's making $1 million. He's just using you for your body. You need to settle down with Joe the plumber and you need to crank out some babies. That's what cis heteropatriarchy would say. Feminism would say, you go, girl. Bang Joe the plumber after you bang the rich guy.
Yeah, but it's the dating apps that enable that, not feminism.
Wait, hold on. Do you think so? So we're comparing two relative like social systems. Cis heteropatriarchy, which is kind of like the classic Western chauvinist thing. Well, cis heteropatriarchy is oftentimes rooted in like Christian sexual morality, which includes some level of like enforced monogamy. So feminism is absolutely, especially if we're talking about like what, fourth wave feminism now. It is about sexual liberation. So how is feminism not a sexually liberal philosophy?
But you have dating apps like Ashley Madison and Adult Friend Finder and like all of the hookup type dating sites that actually promote this idea that you're talking about, that these harems. So I would say that those are the root cause of the problem, not feminism.
Wait, but hold on. So if feminism though if feminism puts choice, because we're talking about like the equality of the sexes, right? And we're effectively saying that the sexes get to make their sexual choices. We're ultimately in a liberal, a liberty-based society. We're ultimately in a freedom-based society. So if we're giving people maximal human freedom and they're choosing to exercise it in a stupid way that has all these negative consequences, and feminism itself views itself as an emancipatory movement. It's a freedom movement. It's women's freedom to choose what they want to do. How is that not correlated?
So counterpoints, you brought up a lot of different statistics to back up your arguments. In my opener, I showed statistics as well, and I showed the source of them was Pew, multiple different Pew research projects. Would you provide some resources that could point towards the statistics you were providing?
Sure. You want my statistics on virginity and dating app hypergamy?
Yeah.
Well, specifically, you said most people think it's worse, and I was showing you a stat that said most people think it's not worse.
No.
What's the
I was
contradiction
saying,
there?
regardless of what people think, it's statistically worse. So
How
if
did you gauge that?
53% of people say that dating is better or it's neutral, their opinion doesn't matter. If virginity has increased by 10% in the past 15 years, that's obviously worse.
Why is that
Yeah,
worse?
but how do you know that's feminism and not something
Why
else?
why is a quarter of the male population not getting laid between age 18 and 30 worse?
It's between 18 and 30 is when
18
you're
and 30.
Hmm.
It's jumped up from around 7 to 8% to 27%, and I'm excluding the gays.
So you think that's worse because you would want to have sex in that situation, right?
I think most heterosexual men with a
Most,
functioning
right.
libido
Right.
would want to have sex between age 18 and 30.
So, but if women don't want to have sex at that age and at that time period, they shouldn't be pressured into it. You would agree?
Sure, but I'm pretty sure most women not only want to have sex during that age period, I would argue that they probably are having sex during that age period. So it's only the bottom 25% of men who are being cut off. And by the way,
So that's an
men are
assumption that
fucking
you made.
dangerous.
It's an
That's a
assumption you make.
social ill.
It's an assumption you make based on no data, right? You're just making up an idea that you think is true, you feel like it's true, but you're not actually showing anything that provides that truth.
No, I
right?
can
Any kind of
provide the
statistics.
stats in which I would say
Please.
male virginity increases. I think I can also relatively easily find that in societies with males who have reduced sexual access, those tend to be more violent societies. This has been studied in the Middle East and North Africa, where female sexual access is pretty strictly controlled, and as a result, there's excuse my debate bro language, but there's like actually, I don't even have to use that word. I can use a different one. There's a male underclass with no economic or sexual access, and there's correlated increases in violence.
So
You're saying I'm pulling it out of my ass. I'm not. I could pull you these
that's
stats
in
if you
South
want.
Africa, though, right?
What's that?
You said that's in South Africa?
That's in the Middle East and North Africa.
Sorry, I apologize. Middle East and North Africa. So how do you know that the economics associated with that are not a bigger contributing factor than feminism?
Well, I mean, they could be correlates, but at the same, there's no feminism in the Middle East and North Africa. These are arguably more patriarchal societies. They're not just Western patriarchal societies. But FreeWill was making the point of, why do you think this is worse? And not only do I think men who are in the situation would think this is worse, I also think there's probably predictable negative social consequence.
Yeah, but we're trying to determine what the root cause is, and it seems to me that economic difficulties and more time spent on stuff like video games and social media would have a bigger impact than feminism.
You're probably right, but
sorry, go
the
ahead.
debate is about feminism, so
well,
it's
yeah, it
hard
is.
No, the
But
debate
that
about
doesn't mean I
identify a
can't.
cause.
That doesn't mean that I cannot identify some other root cause.
The
Well,
debate
you
is about,
could
is feminism
identify another
making
cause.
dating worse, not just about feminism. Maybe we could admit dating is worse, and we are proposing an alternative reason that isn't feminism.
Such
Okay.
as economics and like the high cost of living and video games and social media, the internet, like
There's
stuff like
lots of different things
sites
happening.
like pornography could also be
Easy
a
access to
contributing
porn.
factor. Like men have easier access to pornography than they do talking to women, and social media and the internet are part of that problem. a large
Okay.
part of that problem. I
Okay,
wouldn't say
but
feminism
then we
is.
get into different strands of feminism, right? Because there's sex positive feminism, which valorizes sex work, valorizes pornographic actresses, valorizes female sexuality being propped up on the world stage, and it's an emancipatory and freedom based movement. And then there's sex negative feminism that says that all this shit should be controlled, and that effectively all you're doing is you're decreasing your value as a woman in order to sell your sexuality. So feminism, once again, like it depends on which feminism you're talking about, because there's pro-pornographic feminism.
I love that
Yeah,
you bring
and
that up, Counterpoint, because it shows that those 2 points are not an inherent part of feminism. Feminism is about equality of the sexes, not necessarily about putting pictures of yourself on the internet. It's not necessarily about locking up your reproductive organs so no one can access it. Those are people's different interpretations of what feminism can be, but those are not inherent to feminism. You need to argue why equality of sexes in social society and economic society is a bad thing for dating, not saying some feminists like to put pictures of porn on the internet. Some feminists want to lock up their genitalia. So those things are bad, but that's not what feminism is.
If we think about it like a bell curve,
no, you guys,
the extremist positions are the ones that should fall outside of that definition that Will is talking about.
okay, yeah, but this is where you guys are shifting the frame of the argument. So as an example, what I think Jen and I have to make in this argument in order for our arguments to be coherent is that feminism is an exacerbating factor. So all the things that you brought up, new technology, social media, industrialization, access to pornography, all that kind of stuff, those could all have, let's say that dating was we could actually go ahead and say it. It's 15% worse, okay? Let's just use the male virginity statistic as the statistic. So dating is 15% worse. Okay, so if feminism was 0.5 or 1% of that 15%, our argument would still be sound. Okay, so
you
could say that, oh, it's 15% worse because of all these other like technological developments. Okay, cool. I'm still saying that feminism ain't helping.
Prove that it's 0.001% part of it. You have to prove that, though. You can't just say if it's part of it.
Why couldn't I just appeal to like recent history? Why wouldn't I be able to appeal to like the Me Too movement, for instance? Why wouldn't I be able to? Why wouldn't I be able to appeal to, for instance, like Aziz Ansari?
When this is over, I have a question.
In the past like 6 or 7 years, where effectively what happened was he went on a bad and awkward date, and he was dogpiled.
You are getting
social
correlation and causation confused. Counterpoints. Just because something happens and it happens alongside something else doesn't mean that thing is causing that thing, right? You literally said, what can't I just appeal to what's been happening in recent history? Because it all must be a product of feminism. It all must be a cause of feminism. There can't be any other. No, but you are saying it must be contributed to by feminism.
Me Too was a feminist. Do you think Me Too was a feminist social media movement?
Yes. I don't think it started out that way. I think it started out as a reaction.
Wait, hold on. That's bullshit, Garrett. You think that Me Too was not a feminist social media movement?
That's not what I said.
Okay, then please repeat what you said, because apparently I didn't hear it.
I don't think it started out that way. I think the initial intention of the Me Too movement was to address the sexual abuses coming out of Hollywood.
Wait. If feminism is a movement in order to establish the social and legal equality of women, how is exposing the sexual abuses of Hollywood not a feminist, like a feminist attempt?
Don't you think it's more likely that the Me Too movement latched onto feminism as an offshoot?
This to me is like saying that the Iraq war was a war that like correlates with like military shit. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you just say they're the same thing? It's very clearly that Me Too would be a subset of a feminist movement. Why wouldn't that just be like an obvious truth?
It seemed like it started with Bill Cosby, the transgressions of Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein, like what they did to various women over the years came to the surface, and that is what seemed like it sparked the Me Too movement.
The whole point of the catchphrase "Me Too." I'm sorry, I'm going to latch onto this like a rabid dog because I think you're just coping at this point.
Okay.
So Me Too is the whole point of that hashtag was to share the ubiquity of female sexual abuse across many industries. And
Yeah.
so as a result,
Okay.
it's necessarily an argument that this is a near universal experience, that women experience sexual abuse across like all of Western culture. And therefore, it was a movement to free women from sexual abuse. In that way, it would be definitionally feminist.
I mean, okay,
It's
so
not even core to my argument. I don't even know why you wouldn't just be like, yeah.
I mean, let's say I concede that. Isn't it true that according to FBI statistics, like uh, the rape statistics is like 20% of women, and that also goes for women in the military as well, like 20, 25, not just women, but men also being raped in the military as well. I
Yeah.
remember watching a documentary on Netflix about it. So are all accusations of rape and sexual molestation true? Most certainly not. But it seems like roughly a large percentage of them are true.
I think the argument is
So is
more
there
like there's no
justification
advocacy for
for the
men
Me Too
getting
movement?
sexually harassed. It's not about equality between men and women for regard sexual harassment. It's about bringing awareness to a female issue.
I don't even think that's core to my argument. Like, by the way,
Right.
guys,
Like I said, I'm
just
fine
because we're
conceding that.
arguing about feminism doesn't mean that I'm coming out for pro sex abuse, right? Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not what's happening tonight. Okay.
Right. I
Makes
do
the
have
Me
a
Too movement good.
What I'm trying to say is, and by the way, like, I'm arguably for the legalistic treatment for like the equality of the sexes or the equality of the genders or whatever.
You're a
But what I
feminist.
think
Yeah, I
that
am
is
too.
missing, what I think is missing from this conversation, though, is that we're not equal. We're not equal in a ton of ways. We're not equal biologically. We're not equal socially. We're a complementary like, regardless of whether or not you define it as sex or define it as gender, we are not like an equal sex or equal gender. We're complementary. Some people have certain strengths. Some people have certain strengths. Some people have
Right.
certain weaknesses. Some people have certain weaknesses.
Mhm.
And oftentimes through stereotypical means, we complement each other as a species. And so what I don't like about this conversation, the reason why I'm saying that feminism has made dating worse, is because the excesses of the Me Too movement, which I think is necessarily a feminist movement, was that normal male dating behavior, like approaching women, asking women out on dates from the workplace, those were vilified as sexual abuse and sexual harassment. And a shitload of men have withdrawn from the sexual marketplace as a result of fearing the consequences of Me Too and a feminist movement. That's
So-
bad.
So what's your proposal to have made it better, Counterpoints?
Is probably to have this conversation right here. Number one, I don't expect women to fix it. So, I'm sexist that way. I don't expect women to fix much things. So I think it's incumbent upon us to tell men, you're scared of getting accused of sexual harassment? Stop being a pussy. Just be tactful, be polite, ask a woman out on a date. And if she says no, then drop it. And basically teach men the social skills necessary to overcome their fear and anxiety when it comes to asking women out. Now,
Okay.
when it comes to women,
But you're
I
not
also
against
think,
the Me
well,
Too
you asked me a
movement.
question. I want to finish real quick. I also think when it comes to women, we also need to say, it's actually a Bo Burnham song, by the way. Bo Burnham wrote a song saying, if you want love, drop your expectations a lot. And I think women could use that advice nowadays, where if you make a shitload of cash and you have a high powered job, you're not going to find a giga chad who makes more money than you. You're going to
Yeah,
have to date
I
Joe the
completely
plumber,
agree
and it
with
is
that.
what it is.
I think it's there's a couple things that I want to say, and I have a question at the end of this. I think it's terrible for feminists to have this position of I want equal pay with the men in society, and then when they get that equal pay or more, to turn around and say men should make more than like my husband should make more than me. I think that's an absurd position for feminists to take. I don't think that should even be included. Like I don't think feminists should have that as part of their mindset. I think
Well, it's
that's
not feminist.
incorrect.
It's not a feminist way to think.
Okay. And now the question that I have, Connor and Jen, is why did the first wave of feminism start? Like, what caused that to occur?
I mean, would it be suffrage?
The government wanted a larger tax base. So voting is a basically near meaningless franchise. They can just, award it and
So the
Mm.
government started feminism?
Well, it didn't
Yeah,
get
I don't know if I agree with that. I think isn't arguably the first wave of feminism, isn't it the suffragette movement?
Mhm.
I mean, I could look it up if nobody has the answer, but I'm assuming that the first wave of feminism was the right to franchise, which is actually funny about the United States. Black men got the right to vote before white women, so I think that's an irony of history.
Sure, yeah, I would agree with that. So I saw that in Jen's PowerPoint that the first wave of feminism started in the 1800s. So
Yeah, through
do
the
you
use of
think that it
suffragette,
came about?
they wanted to vote because it's
Do
a
you think that
relatively meaningless franchise.
do you think that the root cause of it was that they wanted to vote, or was there something else to it also, like as far as like trying to obtain mutual respect in the household as well?
Listen, I know I'm arguing the douchebag position, but just because I'm arguing the douchebag position doesn't mean that I want to return to
1800s?
1810 style cis heteropatriarchy,
I
okay?
can't really
So
speak to their motivations because, like, I wasn't there, and I'm sure that they had good motivations because usually to do great works, you have to, like, believe that you're in some sense justified. So I don't see how that is germane to anything because I'm just looking at the outcomes,
Well,
which is
think
like,
what I'm
yeah,
I think what I'm
you've
trying
got
to
this
get at.
situation where if you're a female or a male and you're not working, that's like almost like borderline a taboo.
I think what I'm trying to get at is it doesn't matter how well our intentions are when it comes to creating a solution for a problem, it will have flaws. These are human problems with human solutions that we've come up with. Nothing is going to be perfect. And I think that we as humans also have a tendency to expect a perfect solution when that is simply impossible. The best that we can come up with is a good enough solution. And for its time, it seemed like feminism was good enough. And according to the research that Will provided in his Pew study, it seems like that feminism is still good enough to fix more problems than it creates.
Well, do you
yeah,
think that having an adversarial relationship with your significant other is a good thing?
It's not what feminism is. You're just
No, and I
making that
don't
up.
like so you had said that anecdotes is important. Just
They
speaking
are
from.
important in their own context, but they don't become important until they're aggregated with other anecdotes to see what the
Sure.
statistical significance is per discipline. But yeah.
Just speaking from my own personal experience, I've been married for over 7 years now, and my wife, we fight very rarely. We don't have a traditional marriage. We don't really have gender roles. We kind of just do whatever is needed. I do it, she does it, and we kind of just trade off on the responsibilities. And it's not how her parents were. So my philosophy on it took her by surprise when we got together.
Garrett, just out of curiosity, I'm not trying to get too personal, but do you have kids?
Yeah, we have 2 daughters.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Then so here's the thing though. I can agree that let's say through the 1960s, I don't think women were allowed to have credit cards without like
Right.
signed permission from their husbands. Like I think that was like one of the part of the lore of Ruth Bader Ginsburg was that
Hmm.
she thought it was absurd that it was impossible for her to participate in the economy as a citizen of the United States without the permission of a male, right? And so I understand that it was necessary in order to fight for women to get as far as they've gotten socially. And I'm pretty sure that if I was born with a uterus, then I might have agreed with that fight. But what I'm saying is, whenever we're talking about what is it? It's like the Hegelian dialectic or whatever. There's like a thesis and a antithesis, and then there's synthesis or whatever. What
Hmm.
I'm saying is the thesis we've moved on. Let's say the thesis was like cis heteropatriarchal Western Christian civilization, and let's say the antithesis was feminism. What I'm saying is the synthesis needs to come about because the pendulum has swung too far. And now we're seeing negative side effects, probably partially from the technological developments that you have mentioned, but also from social expectations that are rooted in feminist philosophy. And freedom is not the female freedom or freedom in general shouldn't be the only virtue or god that we worship philosophically. And I think we've gone too fucking far.
So your argument was just the fact that we the if feminism is not going to be the solution, if providing equal rights to women is not going to be the solution, what legal rights should we not allow women to have so that we do not achieve a feminist society?
I don't even think it's necessarily like legal. Okay. So for instance, like I want, women should be able to vote. Women should be able to open up a credit card without their husband's permission.
Okay.
Women should be able to get a driver's license without their dad or husband's permission. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But when it comes to equality, it seems like we have this like weird mix of like paternalism where we kind of treat women like stupid children, but then we also have this like egalitarianism where we can also never tell them what to do. And so just as an example, like when it comes to rape culture as a conversation. So give me a little bit of rope, okay?
Go for it.
So with rape culture, in the late 2010s, actually early 2010s, I went to college. And this was kind of during a relatively speaking feminist wave. And so there was a class talking about how not to commit sexual assault, how not to commit rape on campus. And overall, it was a pretty good class. However, one of the examples that was brought up was if you are dressed up in a nice suit and you're wearing a nice watch and you're on the wrong side of town at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., do you deserve to be robbed? The obvious answer is no, right?
Okay,
like
yeah.
nobody deserves to be robbed, right?
Right.
Just because you're wearing a nice suit and a nice watch doesn't mean that
Mhm.
you should have crime visited upon you. However, do you think it would be smart if your friend was saying, hey, I'm going to put on a 3-piece suit and a $10,000 Rolex, and I'm going to drive to the wrong side of town, and I'm going to get drunk and hang out at 2 or 3 a.m.? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that maybe if you weren't like a paternalistic douchebag, or actually maybe if you are a paternalistic douchebag, I don't know which way you would take this, but do you think that you should be able to say, hey, that's a terrible fucking idea. Don't do that. That's dangerous.
So
You can
I
absolutely
agree
say
that
that.
no one deserves to be victimized in that way.
Everybody agrees with that.
Yeah, that's the obvious
Okay, but do
answer.
you think that culturally you should be able to say, hey, all of these bad behaviors correlate with negative outcomes? Don't do this stupid fucking thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, what I would say is that just by bringing up this example and just by talking about this, there are people on social media and on the internet who are chomping at the bit to go, oh, you're a rape apologist. They're chomping at the bit. They're waiting for some flub to come out where they can be like, oh, you're talking about what she drank that night. You're talking about what she wore that night. You're a fucking rape apologist. That's the way that's an offshoot of feminism. Whereas I think if we were being honest, we would say, hey, yeah, women, you have the right to drink when you're 21. Hey, women, you have the right to choose who you have sex with. Hey, women, you can go out and you can wear whatever the fuck you want. But there's some bad ideas that correlate with this freedom, and you should probably be aware of these risks.
Well, no one's saying there aren't risks. I don't know why you think that's part of
plenty of
feminism.
fucking people who would say
Well, that's not
exactly
what
what I
we're
just said
saying.
was victim blaming and sexist.
That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're
Okay.
arguing. And
Well,
I
then
don't
you're
think
not criminally insane, but that doesn't mean that you're representative of all feminists or even the broad
Okay, but
majority of feminists.
Feminism isn't about saying what women wear or not. Feminism is saying you can wear it. And I really want to understand the implication
yes,
of this. I really want to understand the implication of what you are trying to convey with this argument you're saying. So should we put responsibility on the victim or should we not? And if we should, how do we do that?
So I think that you can say you shouldn't go to the bad side of town without putting responsibility on the victim.
No,
Right,
well,
you don't hold them legally obligated
No,
for
I
that,
think if
right?
we're using words accurately, that's partially a responsibility.
No, but legal responsibility, right?
No, not legal responsibility.
Okay,
that's
so
what I
you
was
want
referring
them to not.
You would give
That's
your
what I was
friend,
referring to was legal
your
responsibility.
hold on. Let's work within the frames of the analogy. If your friend was male and wearing a suit and a Rolex and going to the wrong side of town, what are you going to say? Free will.
I would say be cautious.
I think the
That's all
broader
you would
question
say?
is there a point at which bad outcomes become your own fault? Does that ever happen? Or is it never ever your fault?
So I can say something's a bad idea without saying they are actually responsible for the crime that happened to them, right?
So who's
maybe I'm
responsible?
The person who committed the crime is responsible, Jen.
Of
Okay.
course, the
Wouldn't
person who
that be
committed the
obvious?
crime is responsible,
Well,
but do
I
victims?
Yeah,
look
but-
at it a little differently because I don't buy the she was asking for it thing. But I think if I'm gonna sort of give them the benefit of the doubt, I think what CounterPoints is trying to say is that there are certain things we're entitled to that we need to also, we kind of owe something. If we feel like we're
No.
entitled to something, we owe it back. And if
Well, I think-
everyone's just
I wouldn't even
taking,
say that. I would say that my frustration, kind of with what FreeWill is getting at, okay, is I would tell him to be careful.
That's
The
not what I
fuck?
would say.
You're wearing a 3-piece suit and a $10,000 watch. You're rolling into the hood at 3 a.m. and getting fucking wasted, and you're saying be careful but have fun. That's dumb as fuck. The reason why I think that you're saying that is because you already know that there's a social trap here where realistically what you should be saying is, hey man, that's dumb as fuck. Don't do that. But you don't want to take on the responsibility, because obviously this is an analogy, of telling women what to do. Okay? But I would tell a woman, if she was like, hey, it's Friday night, I'm gonna get blackout drunk, I'm gonna wear a skimpy outfit, and I'm gonna go to a frat house. I'd be like, wow, that's a terrible idea. That sounds like the perfect way to get sexually assaulted. And then douchebags would be like, oh, you're blaming the victim for getting sexually assaulted. And I would be like, no, I'm not blaming the victim. Obviously, the rapist is the person who perpetrated the crime. But I think that we should be smart enough as a society to say, don't engage in shitty, risky behavior. And yet, we can't even have that conversation right here because it's so uncomfortable.
So
This is
I'm
the
a
kind
big
of double standard bullshit that I hate about feminism. This is why I fucking hate it. You can't even just say, hey, yeah, wearing a miniskirt with no panties, going to a frat house and getting blackout drunk is a terrible idea. Don't do that. You're going to get raped.
so that
Because
is a
it's
terrible
too
idea,
close
and
to victim blaming.
I'm a big fan of taking calculated risks, and that's not a calculated risk. Like anyone would, well, I would hope anyone
It's
would know
calculated,
that.
but it's terrible math.
Sure. I think that we should disagree, Will, with this idea that that's just a terrible idea.
No, I do. And I do see your point, counterpoint. There is value in what you're saying, is very true, that you need to be able to understand what the risks are. We need to make sure our population is educated to ensure that they are not taking risks unnecessarily, and what can be more risky behavior and what cannot be more risky behavior. But I want to know,
and what if
therefore,
people are
how
too
does that make
stupid to be
feminism
educated?
wrong? And how
What
does
if
that
people
make
are too stupid to be educated? What then?
What?
Well, it appears to be the case that the majority of people are too stupid to be educated and have to be conformed to normal convention through the threat of force.
But I wouldn't,
Then you
Jen,
arrest
I
them?
wouldn't, I would say that like the education or whatever, I'm
If they
trying to think
commit
about
a
this
crime, you
within the context
punish
of the
them.
college.
So I like Connor. I like what you had said earlier about what men should do, especially in the workplace. You know, that they should like basically stop being a pussy, and you ask women out, and like that seems like a way for men to get over their fear of being accused of like sexual harassment or whatever. Um, and I think that as a philosophy and a solution could easily coincide with the idea that under these ideas of feminism is, to treat each other with more respect and have open, honest communication, which is what Will and I are saying is included under the definition of feminism.
Yeah, that's probably the ideal of feminism. I agree that if we were to put it in like a platonic plane of forms, then ideal feminism would be this mutual respect and responsibility. I agree with that. However, what I'm pushing for is, no offense to you guys, I don't know if anybody's going to even bother to clip me, but the truth is that if somebody wanted to attack me, what they would do is they would take what I was talking about with that analogy, they would clip it into a 10-second clip, and they'd say, boom, rape apologist. You know what I'm saying? So that's where what I'm saying is this is something where we want to give women freedom freedom to choose what they wear, freedom to do what they drink, freedom with who they sleep with, freedom with how they spend their nighttime, freedom with how they do whatever they want to do, right? We want to give them that freedom. But very rarely, because we're afraid of negative social stigma, will we talk about responsibility. Whereas I feel like there is not that fear to talking to young men about responsibility. Whenever you teach them to shave or drive a car or shoot a gun or work a job or get a degree, there's no fear of talking to a man about responsibility. But it seems like if you talk to a woman about responsibility, then number one, you're either mansplaining, another awesome term from the past decade of feminist insane people on the internet, or number two, you're being a paternalistic chauvinist. So once again, like if you want to deal with your platonic form ideals of feminism, yeah, sure. But we're also talking about where feminism has gone awry.
It definitely sounds like you are actually in favor of feminism. You just think the execution of
extremists. The extremists.
the extremists and maybe the general execution of feminism isn't to your liking, and it's not resulting in the outcomes that would result in a true feminist society.
Like I said earlier, any solution that we come up with is going to have its flaws.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of had this conversation with my wife, and I got two kids. I got two boys, and I kind of told her, I was like, if I had a girl, I would raise her like a tomboy. I would teach her how to fight. I would teach her how to shoot. I would take her camping, all that kind of stuff.
Right
But the
on.
reason why I would do that is because I would want her to be prepared for the responsibilities that are expected out of a male. And I would also want her to be prepared for violence, and I would want her to be prepared for how fucked up the world can be. And I feel like a lot of people don't feel that way. They want women to be simultaneously. It's kind of, and by the way, I sympathize with women in reference to this regard. They want them to be like the perfect sex object. Like the what is it? It's like the slut and the virgin. They want them to be virginal, when they're, getting to know them. But then the second that you get into the bedroom, they want them to be like the slut. And also they want them to be, what is it? They want them to be able to protect themselves, but they also want them to be, submissive. And so I understand that there's a whole host of contradictions within like being a woman in the modern era. But the thing that I bump into over and over and over again is that we don't talk to women about responsibility without being called chauvinist, basically.
So I completely agree with some of what you said. So for example, I am taking martial arts classes with both of my daughters. They're 6 and 8. And I've been told by their instructors that their kicks, their hits, I want them to know how to defend themselves in a violent world. And
I don't
I think that's the best thing that I could do.
Like I think that's actually a very feminist way to approach safety for women and get counterpoints. It sounds like you are raising your daughter in a way a feminist would usually agree with.
Connor doesn't have any daughters. He has two boys.
I don't have a daughter.
Sorry, your hypothetical daughter.
We'll see.
That's what I meant
But my hypothetical daughter, yeah, sure.
Right.
It sounds like you would have raised him the way raised her in the way that a feminist would advocate for, and right.
Sure, but this is the thing where we're talking about extremism. And by the way, like we're kind of in the internet age, guys. So maybe I'm just old as shit. I'm almost 40, but effectively, like you have to understand that
older than you.
I know, Garrett, but you and I will age gracefully in the Twitch and YouTube political space together.
Right.
But the thing is, like, you have to understand that 2016 for a lot of people within like the millennial, early Zoomer generation, that was 10 seconds ago. And what was going on was that shitty MTV series run by Francesca something. It might have been Francesca Ramsey, where she's talking about manspreading and white male this and cis heteropatriarchy and all this bullshit. And this was everywhere. 2016 to 2022. And now it feels like the left wing, because of Donald Trump, because of the right-wing ascendance, because of right-wing social media, because of Elon Musk buying Twitter, it feels like the right wing and the conservatives are ascendant. And so what's happened is, instead of all the insane, progressive, rad femme bullshit that was being espoused 2015 to 2019, it feels like feminism has become this like cute, ooh-woo, small, sweet philosophy that wasn't dominating the internet for years. And so that's what kind of feels like bullshit to me. I feel like I'm being gaslit right now, or you guys just weren't around when feminism was this like radical anti-male psycho shit
So
in the
I also think
2010s.
that was is a bigger impact is political ideologies too. Like that's an underlying root cause that so if you look at like the what is it, MGTOW, men who go their own way, like
Yeah.
aren't a lot of them Trump supporters? And I read
Oh, I think
some.
there's actually like an increasing gender gap in right-wing versus left-wing politics. I think it's like a 10-point swing in
Yeah.
both demographics in different directions.
So it seems like a lot of women are more liberal and a lot of men are more conservative, and that political ideology is clashing in relationships. So I wouldn't say it's feminism that's the root cause. I would say it's the political divide is a bigger problem than feminism itself.
Yeah, but if you look at the Trump stuff, which by the way, I don't think there's like a bigger Trump hater than me. Like I truly dislike what the Republican Party has become. I dislike MAGA. I dislike Trump viciously. Okay.
I'm with you on that.
However,
100%.
My
However-
brain just exploded.
okay. However, talk to any Republican male under the age of 30. Okay.
Mhm.
And they're going to say that as a white straight male, as a white straight conservative male, they're not the ones doing the oppressing. They're getting revenge. And of course, like their narrative is going to be bullshit. Like 2020 to 2024, you ask them what Joe Biden did in order to hurt them, and they'll be like, he let in too
Inflation.
many immigrants
Inflation and too many
and he
immigrants.
caused inflation, right? You know, like that's going to be like the young Republican narrative. But you have to understand that like the culture war pendulum is rooted all the way back in like Gamergate and like anti-SJW bullshit from the late 2010s. I mean,
Mhm.
Elon Musk himself, his purchase of Twitter is allegedly blamed on the fact that progressives and liberals were dominating social media so much that conservatives couldn't say what they wanted to say, which is why he spent what, like $44 billion on Twitter. It's why
Well,
he
even
backed
going
the
back
Trump
further
campaign.
than that, doesn't he have a trans kid or something that like
He does.
Oh,
really
he
fueled
blames the
this?
left for killing his son by making them trans.
The
Yeah,
woke mind
absolutely.
virus.
I mean, that's I don't blame, like I wouldn't blame the left for that. Like that's
Well, I wouldn't either because I'm not an idiot, but Elon Musk is, and he's a wildly powerful person. And then
right.
not
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
this narrative, I don't agree with this narrative, but I'm saying this narrative is
It exists, for
extremely
sure.
popular
Yeah.
in males, young
Yeah.
males. They think they're getting revenge.
I mean, aren't so they're getting revenge while being single and having no sex?
Yeah.
Like how is
No,
that
they think
revenge?
that they think by attacking. Sorry if I'm going a little bit wide with it, but basically, like
No, you're fine.
when we're talking about this, like gendered,
It's definitely
split,
wide though in terms of I do want
is
to
feminism bad
redirect
for
this, maybe
dating?
give a super pithy answer, and then we got to go back to the
Sure.
topic.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I'll try to be quick. The gendered political gap, I
Mhm.
think, is rooted in a perceived male victimization, and that perceived male victimization roots from not being able to get a job, not being able to get into higher education, or not being able to get into higher education compared to minorities and women, not being able to get as much money, not being able to afford a family. And so when you're talking about feminism, feminism is kind of like a part of the philosophies that gave women a leg up in academia, education, and employment. And so male resentment, I think, is partially motivated by a reaction to the success, quote unquote, of feminism.
So feminism is the car, and what you just described is the semi. At least that's how I would view it.
I mean, you could perceive it either way, but we can agree that we just had like a 65-mile-an-hour fucking car accident, and both, the truck and the car are on fire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought of a question. If, let's say, feminism just poofed out of existence tomorrow, what do you think the effect would be on dating?
Oh, weirdly enough, I think it would be worse.
I was asking the other side. You've been talking like 75% of the time.
Let's go to William and Garrett.
I think it would be worse.
So I think it would be worse for not only the women but also the men involved, because the issue with misogyny or patriarchy, the opposite of feminism, is that it honestly is trapping of men in a similar way like the women are trapped. Men maybe have the force behind the physicality aspect of it, but they are going to be socially entrapped in a dynamic where they are not able to express their emotions. They're not able to concede to many of the aspects of society that are more feminine, and they can't gain that mental healthiness because they can't access that. It's not good for men. It's not good for women because of obvious reasons. They won't have the rights that they should have. And without half of the population having the rights that they can have, you're not using their value in the maximum way you could. They're not stimulating the economy in an economic way that would be contributing to their value.
So
either.
Connor,
Well, like for the
Jen, if
vast
you want to say
majority
something,
of
that's
history,
great, but I would push on
Hold on
that.
for the
one second.
vast
I just wanna hear
majority
Jen.
of history, for the vast majority of history, there's been female coverture. So if that's the case, could you ever see a situation where we would go back to that?
Sorry, what do you mean by coverture?
The head of the household, usually a man, owns everybody as his property within the family.
I think we could go back to that, and I think it would be a gigantic waste for all the potential very strong women that could contribute to the society and the family dynamic that would be lost. We could go back to it, and that would be a massive loss, and it would be a much more inefficient society overall.
So Connor, the fact that you think that the dating scene would be worse if feminism disappeared overnight, does that mean that you also agree with me in the idea that it's an imperfect, flawed solution that has solved some problems?
Yeah. So I think it's a pendulum. And so I don't want women to not be able to vote, not be able to have credit cards, not be able to go out with their father's permission, even if they're adults, inherit property, et cetera, et cetera. If we eliminated all of that, we're just going back to, like, I don't know, the late 19th century. So I think that's silly. However, my argument is that the pendulum has swung too far and that there's things that we need to chop off and say, hey, this is bad. And then just as an example with free will, one of the things that we've had over the past 200 years is we've had a precipitous drop in the birth rate to the point that the majority of the world is no longer at demographic replacement. Now,
true.
we as a species are probably going to survive this through technology, automation, whatever, but it is causing some serious fucking problems. And some of those problems are economic. Some of those problems are using immigration as a stopgap for economics. And so the worship of the economy over like social function, I think is borderline silly. As a matter of fact, I would say one of the challenges of feminism is, yeah, sure, like a competent woman should be able to pursue her career on a voluntary basis. But I still think our hostility to a male-female partnership raising children, and one of the partners, let's face it, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, it's going to be the female, stepping back professionally for a half decade to a decade to raise children, I think that should be like the pro-social norm.
I thought
I
that
don't
the
care about the economy.
reduction
Fuck the
in birth
economy.
rate was more related to industrialization more than feminism.
It is. It's
It
related to
seems like
industrialization and contraception. I wouldn't view that as cultural. I would view that as technological.
And
okay.
counterpoints, I feel like that's a big issue I'm taking with a lot of your arguments. I feel like you're kind of looking at anything in the world and blaming feminism for it. You could
No,
take any
I think
statistic and be
contraception
like,
was going to
oh,
come
lower
around no
birth
matter
rates.
what. Even contraception,
Okay,
I
so
think
it's
the
not
birth
feminism.
rate is not caused by feminism. I think the birth rate is
Oh.
dropping because of contraception. I think even men don't want children that they can't take care of.
So it's not feminism. So why the bringing it of it? Why'd you bring
Because
it up?
because like I said, the pendulum has swung too far and it needs to be corrected. I said
But it's
that
not
just
because
5 minutes ago.
but it's not because of feminism. It's a different.
Yes, it is. You made an argument just like 2 to 3 minutes ago where you were saying like, oh, well, we would have a less economic, less free, less vibrant society. That's a feminist argument. And I'm saying I don't give a fuck about that. There are things that are more important than an economically efficient employment model.
And kind of, I
Like
think
having the next generation is more important than having an effective economic model.
allowing women to stay at home and be a trad wife is a part of the feminist movement as well. Because the feminist movement
Well,
is not
listen,
go
man, it's a
work.
part of some feminist movements. Let's be real.
Well, it's a part of
Well,
the feminist movements that are honest and actually trying to pursue.
Listen, man, I'm pretty sure
gender
that there would be
equality.
some 1960s rad femmes who would hit you with a skillet for some of the shit that you're saying is feminism.
I get it, but
let's be
you're
real.
you're trying to red herring the concept of feminism. Those are
No,
the
I'm not.
extremists.
I'm trying to make you
You're
acknowledge
using
that there are some extremes that disagree with you.
yes, but you're using
Feminism,
9/11
similar to any other
terrorists.
ideological movement, is
Yeah, but
obviously plural.
You're
The-
using
the-
9/11
the
terrorists
thing
to argue
is-
against Islam. That's not a representation of the majority of the thought process of what feminists are.
Hold up, but
right?
if I said, well, and just to make this analogy, sorry, James, we're jumping out of frame again. But if I was to tell you that 25% of the global Muslim population, around 500,000 people, accepted jihadism as a viable political expression, then necessarily jihadism as a component of Islam would still be correlated.
Well, you just
So you
said
saying like, oh,
25%.
jihadism has nothing to do with Islam. It's bullshit.
I didn't say it had nothing to do with it. It's an example of the extreme, right? And you just said 25%.
Sure,
That's not even
but
the majority.
Extreme feminism is still feminism.
Extreme feminism is feminism. I honestly, sometimes it's just not. Like they can claim to be feminist. It doesn't mean they're feminists. Feminism
Okay,
means
I
you're
think
pursuing.
Well,
Judith
we've had
Butler-
just one thing, if I could just jump in, there's been 4 waves in 150 years. That sounds pretty extreme to me. I mean, that sounds like a lot.
that's-
In my worldview, you only ever have one thing, which is a reformation back to the original principles. There's never waves, nothing ever changes.
Well, I mean, just because they're waves doesn't mean it's extreme. Maybe all those waves were perfectly valid.
So how would you qualify something as extreme? Because to me, something changing the goalposts all the time.
So
that
so
seems
I would
pretty extreme to
view
me. Oh, my thing
Be-
didn't work.
just to
I
be
better
sure I
try
hear the-
something
just
else.
to
Oh,
be
that
sh-
didn't work. Better try something else.
Just to be sure, we heard the end of Jen's sentence. I think she was mid-sentence when you started, Garrett.
sorry.
What was it that you were saying, Jen?
I wanted to know if modifying the core approach 4 times in 150 years isn't extreme, what is?
So I would
I
say an
mean-
example of the extremism is like what Conor was talking about with women who think that men should make more than them after they've equalized the pay. Like that seems silly and absurd to me. That's an extreme position. Or a friend of mine today, when I was talking about me doing this debate today, he described these women who walk up to men and punch them in the face and then think that there wouldn't be any repercussions or consequences. That seems silly, absurd, and extreme to me. Those would be the kind of extremists I think that Will and I are referring to.
But and I don't even want to bounce off that, Garrett, is that I wouldn't even qualify those people as feminists. They just aren't. They say they're feminists, but that doesn't mean they're feminists. You could say you're a Christian. That doesn't mean
I
you
was
follow
just gonna
Jesus
say that.
Christ, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you follow Jesus Christ. And
Yeah, that's
it's
the
a
no true
categorical error.
Scotsman fallacy, but it's a
No, it's-
fallacy.
Wait,
Do
wait,
you
hold up.
understand
Not a
why
fallacy.
the no true
Well, it's kinda like
Scotsman
the
fallacy
opposite
is
of
a
no true
Hold on,
fallacy?
okay, Garrett. Like when Jen is mid-sentence, like it's good to wait until they're done with their sentence.
Sorry.
What were you saying, Jen?
The thing is that it's actually an important point to make is that the no true Scotsman fallacy is actually not that self-evident. So
So-
it's basically saying that to invoke an anecdote in the face of a statistic is a fallacy.
So I love that you brought up the no true Scotsman fallacy, and this is not a no true Scotsman fallacy. A no true Scotsman's fallacy is when a Scotsman says other Scotsmen are not Scotsmen because they don't drink. They're obviously Scotsmen because the definition of a Scotsman is someone who is born in Scotland. A feminist is someone who tries to strive for feminism, which is equality of the sexes. And if you are not striving for that, you are not a feminist just
It's
because you
not
call
just someone
yourself
who
that.
identifies as a feminist.
Obviously not. No, just because you
Wait, hold
identify
on.
as
Listen,
a Christian
I'm gonna call
doesn't make
bullshit
you
on
one.
this. Listen, the
Go
reason
ahead.
why I'm gonna call bullshit on this.
I'll give
is
you a
because
chance to
you
respond,
guys-
Connor, and then we do have to go into the Q&A pretty quick here.
Okay, so the reason why I'm gonna call bullshit on this is because obviously we're dealing with like a Christian nationalist, Christian conservative rise here, okay? But I
Yeah.
am watching some of the thought leaders of Christian conservatism arguing on Twitter right now about how cutting off people's food stamps and letting them starve is actually awesome and how it's based. And I would say that you know, they haven't really, you know, paid attention to what Christ said. They might be able to find some random obscure like passage about how like he who doesn't, you know, work shall not eat or some shit, but they're taking one scriptural verse and then they're ignoring the rest of Christ. So if I was to say, oh well, these Christian nationalists, they're not real Christians, I understand what you're saying because I don't think they're following the message of Christ. But at the same time, they are the largest representation of this movement and probably the largest political bloc that uses any kind of religion whatsoever within the United States of America. So again, I just don't accept this. Plenty of feminists would disagree with you. Plenty of feminists would say that you're not the real feminist for not subscribing to whatever specific dog shit idea they had.
I don't care what feminists would say, and I also don't care what even if you are trying to define
that's
it.
very
Just because,
misogynist
let
of
me
you
go
not
ahead
to
and
care
finish
what
my sentence
feminist women would
because
say.
you did
Hold
talk
on,
for 75% of the
let's
time.
hear from William, and then we got to go to the Q&A.
So I don't care that what feminists who disagree with me say. Feminists can be wrong, right? And I don't care what the majority of people who call themselves feminists say either, because that doesn't mean they're right, right? And just because majority of people are Christian, say they're Christian in the country, that doesn't mean they're really Christian. Just because they label themselves as such, because that is not the definition of the word. And you can't just disregard the definitions of these words and say, oh, it's true Scotsman because they all say they're Christian. No, that's not what a Christian is. That's not what a feminist is. A feminist who goes after violence and inequality of men, demeaning them, that is not feminism. Just because they say they are and advocate for it, that's not it.
I mean, if you don't fit within the criteria of a
I
feminist
hate
or a
to say
Christian,
it,
then you're not.
we do have to jump into the Q&A. This one, folks, I want to say first, thank you very much for our guests. They're linked in the description. We're going to jump into your questions. We do appreciate all of them. In terms of housekeeping stuff, do want to remind you, as I had mentioned earlier, and you don't want to miss it, it's going to be amazing. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, DebateCon 6 is going to be 2 days of epic debates. Meet your favorite debater and see all these debates live and in person. And one really quick thing, in case you can't, if it's just absolutely impossible, you're like, James, I will not be able to do it. It's not feasible. You can watch all the conference from home. If you sign up as a channel member at the final word level, you can see the whole conference for just $14.99. You don't want to miss out on this epic conference. We have one debate that's about to be booked. I have to wait until the contract is signed, but oh baby, this conference is going to be just stacked. With this, we're going to jump into the Q&A. Even Lord, thanks very much for your question. Says, free my Caucasian Ryan. He may have played a bad hand, but he was dealt a pretty bad hand as well. Anyway, it's a pleasure to see you, Dr. Coons. Thanks for your kind words. And I agree. I was maybe a little bit too heavy-handed on Ryan. So I promise we're happy to have Ryan back. And when I said bench Ryan, people thought it was like, oh no, are they like cutting ties? No, I just meant it might be me moderating for a week. But Basil Problem says, modern day debate, when do you think you'll run out of Christian nationalist debate topics? We've had, that's very funny. Ha, ha. We've only had one Christian nationalist debate in like, I think, no joke, I think ever. I don't think we just did it like last month, maybe. So we have plenty more to come, Basil Problem. Even Lawrence
I
says
would like to do one of those.
it's a very real possibility. It is a popular topic right now, as well as there's another one that was, I'll get to it later. Even Lord says, do you think the political polarization between males and females also makes dating worse? Does feminism make...
Yes.
So that was actually something that came up. Conor, you mentioned the kind of the gender gap when it comes to political party they vote for. Does feminism make females more politically left wing?
Yeah, I guarantee you that we could probably pull up the stats. It doesn't even sound like it's in contest right now
No,
amongst the
I agree with
panel.
that.
And then I also agree that it makes it worse. So when you have the excesses of the Trump administration coming out, and you got guys saying like, "Oh, who gives a fuck? Lol, this is funny." And then when you have women, my wife is a wine mom, right? But she talked crazy shit on the day that Charlie Kirk got killed. And I was thinking to myself, if I was like a conservative person, maybe I would be offended right now. So yeah, political polarization has absolutely made relationships worse, 100%.
This one coming in. Oh, any other thoughts from anybody else?
I was just agreeing with Conor. I think that political ideology has had more of an impact than feminism. I think that we would be having this impact whether or not feminism existed.
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Basil Problem. He's a real nasty guy, but we put up with him. He says, Jen, are you the posts? Are the posts on your blog a prank? If they are not, please explain what process relational consciousness is. We'll give you a chance. Will you define this term for us, Jen?
Right. So most people hear consciousness and they think the little light that turns on when you wake up in the morning. So this is a philosophical understanding of consciousness. So we're basically starting from the position of like what comes first from our own experience, and we can't get underneath our own experience. So we presuppose that the mind is fundamental, and we have to look at basically what is philosophy about. It's about a lot of different things, but one of those things is the general relationship between, the relationship between general and particular. So you want to be able to understand how those things work out and have knowledge relationships that are fruitful. And you can have different general models. Substance dualism is the one that's really popular in the West right now. Most people don't know it by that name, but you can look this up and chat GPT or the like, and you'll see sort of like, oh, this is how a lot of ideas are framed. In my worldview, we see the issues with framing abstract concepts in a conventional sense. So we break things down to semantic primitives, and the semantic primitive that we kind of decided on for this ultimately mentalist worldview is a process. So consciousness is, you can think of it as the very most basic process that there is, or the ground of process, if you want to think of things as originating with some fundamental principles and then growing from there, or just the permanent motion. So it isn't a joke, but it's meant to be kind of like jokey, because just where people are at, they're not really going to necessarily respond to something really academic. So I'm trying to put stuff out there that people will respond to and just get them asking little questions that eventually put them on the path of appreciating philosophy. Thanks for giving me the chance to answer that question.
This one from Basil Problem. We got that. Said, CounterPoints is, in your Christian nationalist future, will we be allowed to vote? Will they be allowed to leave the home? I think by they mean, the gays. I think he's saying, will I as a gay be able to vote and leave the home?
Yeah, okay. To be clear, I'm not a Christian nationalist. I'm not a Christian theocrat. I actually think I'm a pretty moderate Republican, regardless of my sexist takes tonight. Yeah, the gays can still vote, the blacks can still vote, the Hispanics can still vote, the Asians can still vote, the Jews can still vote. I am a civic nationalist, a paperwork nationalist. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the American experiment, and just because I disagree with you or think your perspectives are stupid doesn't mean that I want to take away your rights. I just want to argue with you in public and call you stupid.
But can women vote?
He already said that.
Listen. I wish I
Okay.
could be. I wish I could be misogynist enough to say that women shouldn't vote or whatever. But the real take is Pandora's box is open. We're not going back to white men of good character who own property being the only people who are voting. And unless there's in my ideal world, I think you should have to pass a citizenship test in order to vote. That would be my thing.
But
so
is
if you're
gender
female,
a part
I don't
of
give
it?
a fuck. But
Okay,
if you
gender does matter.
race, gender, religion, nope, doesn't matter. You need to pass a citizenship test. And if I was really dictator for a day, I would probably say 4 years of some kind of service. You either serve in the Peace Corps, the Marine Corps, the post office, or you work retail and restaurant during the holiday season for 4 years in a row. Then you can.
Well,
vote.
you would
Put the
have
AI in charge.
Yeah.
you would have some type of grandfathering in place, right? Like you're not going to expect somebody who is 65 years old, 75 years old.
Well, they go
You're not
to.
going to take away their right to vote
Listen,
and
the
say you have to go
entire
spend 4
United States
years.
would need to collapse in order for me to force everybody to take a citizenship test and make them do 4 years of public service. I don't think we have to worry about Conor being dictator of the United States.
I'm
I don't
just
think we have to
asking
worry.
you to clarify your position is all.
Nah,
But-
fuck them. No, fuck the old people.
They
If
should
they
work
can't do
too.
4 years of public service, then you don't get to vote.
They have just
Tough
as much
shit.
responsibility, absolutely. But
I
Conor, before-
actually agree with the citizenship test because I think that a better understanding of the civics of the United States is essential, especially since we now have a criminally, or like a president or presidents in general are immune from criminal prosecution now, which I am sure you're not a fan of, Connor.
Yeah, so yeah, this is largely a meme position. If I could be a dictator, I would. I won't be. So please do not lose any sleep over my dictatorial
But
aspirations.
before we move on from this question, I just want to say it's really, I hate to burst your bubble or say this, Connor, but from almost everything you've said tonight, most of what you said sounds in agreement with true feminism, and I appreciate your viewpoints on it.
Listen, man. Here's another thing. Before we move on from that,
Yeah.
I was just reading this with my chat earlier today. If you go back to the Bible, oftentimes the scripture that's most used in order to justify male dominance over women is women or wives, you must submit to your husbands. But
Yep.
then if you read the exact next paragraph, is about how men need to love their women as if they were a part of the same flesh, as if they were made of one body, as if they were the same being. And so, even Christianity, arguably compared to the paganism that preceded it, Christianity was vaguely feminist.
We must
Power
go to
the
the next
Christians.
one. This one from Basil Problem, like I said, real nasty. He says, Jen, please tell us more about, quote, conformal thermodynamic resonance. But you only get 30 seconds, Jen. It's got to be super pithy.
Okay.
You have a photo of it. Wow. How
Yeah,
convenient.
so that's one way. I would say that's probably the easiest way to look at it. It's a dimensional principle, goes along with my quantum periodic table. I talk about this all the time. You can check out my channel for more information. But basically, 3+1 is a fundamental property of the universe, and we can use it to derive all sorts of interesting things from biology to physics.
You got it. Thank you very much. The Cheap Chimp says, this is peak counterpoints argumentation. Wow, you have such a fan. This one from, by the way, William and Garrett, do you guys have links for channels?
Yes, FreeWill. I think.
Okay, what's your handle on YouTube? It's a
Free-
yes or no, Garrett.
Yeah, I really don't.
Okay.
FreeWillful.
Willful. Okay, thank you for that.
I would love to start a YouTube channel, but I need better equipment first.
It'll happen.
No rush. You don't have to have one. A lot of guys come on just because guys and gals love it for the love of the game. Basil Problem says, Counterpants, do you have a job other than streaming? Wow.
No, I say so. Just to share some of my professional history, since he asked, anyways, I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, 4 years getting my degree. I worked the entire time in the private sector. I did 4 years in law enforcement. I did 4 years in construction administration, and then in April of 2025, I went full time as a content creator, and I have successfully paid my bills since April with my income from the internet. So no, I don't have another job, and I'm damn proud of it.
That's awesome. And not only that, but even Lord says, don't worry, he's just a troll. Said Jen is being is a good female being silent. W Jen. Although they were actually cheering for you. I think it's meant in an endearing way, even if it doesn't come off that way. Jen's a good sport. She's not easily bothered. Even
No,
Lord,
she's laughing.
thanks for your super sticker, even Lord. Let me check if we had any last questions come in. I've got all the links updated. Thank you guys. Folks, I have to tell you about a couple of things. One is check out our guest links. Even if you don't agree with them, there's value in hearing their positions straight from them because it's not somebody else paraphrasing it in a way that's like totally strawmanning it or even like vaguely strawmanning it. So check out their links. And folks, I'm for real. DebateCon 6, we had somebody during the actual stream. I think Basil, he wasn't making up. We saw somebody grabbed a ticket right now during the stream. You don't want to miss out. It is going to be huge. This is a 2-day debate conference. Meet your favorite debaters and see these fiery debates live. But if you're like, dang, it's impossible, James, I can't, I gotta work, I work on weekends. Join our channel memberships at the final word level. You get to watch all the debates live from the comfort of your very own home, eating popcorn, ice cream, you name it. I want to say a huge thank you to our guests. It has been a tremendous debate. William, Garrett, Jen, and CounterPoints, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for
My-
Yeah, thanks
having me.
for
Been a
thanks for
pleasure.
having me.
Dr. James.
My pleasure. Yes, it's strange hearing that, but I will be back in a moment, folks, with updates about DebateCon and much more, including a new debate that's about to be added to the schedule. So stick around, and I'll be back in about 24 seconds.
Yeah. I'm not dying. Get out of here. Not dying. We're dancing in the street. There's nothing left to eat. We're on a winning streak. Going out in style. I hear you. I'm not dead yet. Get out of here. Yeah. Break out the hand grenades. You know.
Thank you very much, folks, for watching tonight. It has been amazing. Let me just load up this little Zoom here, and then I've got to tell you about it. We are going to have, because I'm not making this up. You guys maybe are thinking like James is just saying that. No, no, no. I'm not just saying it. But I want to say it like once it's actually signed as a contract, because even though I think it's gonna happen, like I'm like super confident. I'm like, but I will say this. I'll tell you this. Mike Jones would be in the debate, Inspiring Philosophy, and it'll be on Does God Exist? And it's going to be with an opponent who is very formidable. Like, this is the type of debate that years ago I would have been like, this is a main event. And because this conference is so stacked, I would put it as the main event, but we've already got the main events booked because we've got Andrew Wilson versus Daniel Hakikachu one night, and then we booked Andrew Wilson and Richard Carrier on another night. It is going to be like the biggest conference yet by far. I can tell you that based on the ticket signups, it's going to be a packed room. So we are expecting to sell out. So don't wait. Grab your tickets. Those are linked in the description box, but I'm also going to put them at the top of the chat right now. And folks, I got to tell you, it's not too late. Grab your plane tickets. You can still get a fine deal. I bought mine like less than a week ago, and it was like $60 for my flight. So that's one really cool thing. Just go with a backpack. It's like 2 or 3 nights. You don't need a big bag. You honestly, I'm not joking. I'd go with a backpack. But yeah, thank you guys for coming here, and thank you for being channel members. Do appreciate all of your guys' support. We have a lot of, do appreciate it. Folks, if you haven't yet, sign up to be a channel member. You can for just $14.99. I'm going to show you this right now because you guys are like, huh? What are you talking about? You can just for $14.99, you can actually get all of DebateCon from right at home. So if you're, I'm like, what are you waiting for? I mean, it's going to be amazing. So let me show you these channel memberships because it's now more important than ever. Is first, as you can see at the left side of the screen, it says Modern Day Debate, join this channel. Click on the join button. You will see this exact same thing. So for example, at the spectator level, you get those cool Modern Day Debate badges next to your name, as well as the custom emojis so that you can call Basil Problem a soy boy with our custom emoji. That alone is worth the $2.99. You can't even get a cup of coffee for $2.99 anymore. Isn't that amazing? It's crazy. And now the inflation in the next year or two is going to ramp right back up. So get ready. Dear friends, not only that, but at the debater level, I want to let you know, you get access to all, so let me show you these individually, is looking at these based perks. Let me show you the spectator first, because you not only get the custom emojis and the badges, you get immunity from the slow mode during the live chat, but also you get the updates that are only available to channel members. For example, I'm releasing the name of that debate that's going to happen. Little juicy inside info like that. But not only that, we also have at the middle level the debater level. So if you look on screen, just $4.99 a month, which honestly, it's getting to the point where a lot of places you can't even find a cup of coffee for that cheap, which is crazy. $5.99 or $4.99 a month. Members only videos. So for example, we have 350 debates already that are part of our members only library. Amazing. And these are some of our most controversial debates. So debates with people like a certain Nick, Fuentes, Stefan Molyneux, Milo Yiannopoulos, and also some of our most kooky debates, like whether or not the Titanic actually sank or whether or not Bigfoot is real. They're a lot of fun ones. But also, member shoutouts, which we're about to do right now. So we read out people's names and we basically say, hey, thanks so much for being a member. We do appreciate it. And we're going to do it right now, which I'm just excited and thankful that, yeah, we do have, it has grown. So let me pull this list up. Active members, and thank you, Oliver Catwell, who just joined at the final word level today. I just saw that. So thank you very much. Let me just download this little list. Current level. We'll go to the debater and final word. And I've got to tell you, this is going to be the conference that you want to watch live. And for $14.99, folks, think about this. I mean, you have plans November 15th and 16th. You do. You might not know it. You're like, I didn't think I had anything. You do. Because DebateCon is going to be just packed with epic debates. It's going to be up. Let me go through this list, though, before I go on and on about DebateCon. So first, thank you very much. Oliver Catwell just became a member today. And Jimmy, thank you very much. Prime Apollo, appreciate your being a member. And let me see if I'm saying this right. Pijaro Santo, thank you very much for being a member. Action Packed. And this is at the debater level or at the final word level. We read off your name. Lore 1 and 3, Reed M, Tippy River, Greg S, Daniel Gruen, KJ Smith, Riley, and Toadman Alcatraz, as well as Trigger Gaming, MC Natty, Desert Shadow, Josh Gardner, Agrilapolis, Jeff C, Kokomo, Big League Drew, and Austere Est Fasir. Thanks for being members at the final word level. Maudie, thanks for being a member at the debater level, as well as Matt League, thanks for being a member at the final word level, and thanks for being a member, Evan Lundstrom, as well as Hot Tuna and T, as well as Yak Fine, Gino Biscotti, Mortem, Jordan Walsh, I Killed Earl, longtime viewer, thanks for that. Support Deputy Frank, Garrett, Sherry, Carl Slagan, Tai Shara Eubanks, Samuel Lindstrom, Nick Mercer, Fady Ibrahim, NetTube user, Basil Problem, Jen Ranch Girl, Nate P, Mr. Samuel Tawheed, Walk with the Spirit, Ryan, Kat Johnson, Marilyn, 1313 Marilyn, aka, and Jupiter Darman, as well as Tony's Tech and Custom PCs, and Pito Rosario, and Joshua Latino. Thank you so much for all those members. We do appreciate it. So yes, join this big movement as I'm trying to put out the best content possible. We want to do more in-person debates. And Catman said yes, and Eric Stryker and Mike Enoch debate. Yes, there is a super controversial debate with Eric Stryker and Mike Enoch. So that one, if you, it's still up. We purposely have that as members only because I'm like, should we keep it up? Because I sometimes worry, like, is YouTube ever going to come after us for that debate? But I want to say, I've got to check. You got to check them out. So thanks for being a member, Dan the Man Gruen. I see you there. Reed M. Thanks for coming by, and we are excited though. I got to tell you, as I had shown on screen on the left side, we do member shoutouts like I just did. We do early access to new videos. So our outnumbered videos, we always release them early. Basically, members get to see those before the public does. Members only live streams. We're doing one of those this Saturday. So join the debate level. And maybe you're like, well, James, I don't know. I was thinking about that. But what I'm really curious about is I'm thinking about the final word level, because I want to go big and I want to, get the biggest one where you can watch DebateCon at home. Well, I'll show you this is what that looks like. You get not only all the perks that we already covered, you do, which is awesome, but you also get these additional big perks, namely your name on screen in that little ticker at the bottom right of your screen, or the bottom of your screen during the debate, as well as share your thoughts with the Modern Day Debate monthly Zoom meeting. It's another cool way. Amazing. That's basically where we have like kind of like a planning meeting, and we just talk about things that we're up to at Modern Day Debate, things we're setting up. And so that's like the really inside info. And then watch DebateCon 6 stage debates live. So all the stage debates, kind of like the main debates, because we'll do outnumbered recordings, filming, where it'll be like 1 versus 5. But those, we're going to edit those and release them later. But in terms of the stage debates, we will be live streaming those for people at the Final Word membership level. And I got to tell you, folks, I mean, $14.99. We were thinking about, no joke, it was going to be like, should it be like $49.99? And we were like, you know what? Let's just include it for our Final Word members. Be $14.99. It's very affordable. And you got the whole weekend full of epic debates that you get to watch live as they happen. Whew. But I want to say thanks for being with us. Dwarf Stars P, I see you there. And there's other stuff. So you might be wondering, you're like, hey, what other stuff is there, James? So I will show you. If you look at the screen right now, there's the Indiegogo crowdfund. So I'm going to throw that in the live chat as well. So we basically do this crowdfund where it's like, hey, this is a way of supporting the event. Basically gives us a safety net, because these events are, you guys, it's expensive and it's hard. I think people think like, oh man, like they must be real profit generators. No, like I put in massive amounts of work and like we barely break even pretty much every time. So the last time we had a little bit extra left over, which we said, hey, we're going to reinvest it into the next one. That's why this conference is better. Like, it's just objectively, there's just no arguing about it. This conference is just going to be off the hook, as the young people say. Now, that Indiegogo, I want to show you this. Matt in Cali says Modern Day Debate over and over. Oh, that's funny. I do remember that one. That's funny that you've heard that. I wish I had. I don't have it on this OBS. I've got to see if, I don't think I do. Let me check really quick. No, I don't have it on this one. So I wish I could, but let me tell you this. The Indiegogo link, I just pinned it. It's at the top of the live chat right now. So this is a crowdfund, like Kickstarter. Indiegogo is great. You have the option of give without a perk. That's at the top left. You're just like, hey, here's $5. I like these events. I think it's cool you're doing it. We do appreciate that support. Like I said, this is like a safety net for us financially. It helps a ton because these conferences are they're expensive. And you notice like the audio video is way better because it used to be me like running around like a monkey doing the audio and video for our conferences. No joke. Is now it looks really good because we actually pay someone who's a professional. Now you can see above, top center, your name in the post-debate credits. You're like, hey, would love to have my name as like a mini sponsor at the end of the stream. That is appreciated as well. Otherwise, a signed emblem page, which by the way, the prices, we have slashed the prices on these because we were trying to get as many people in on them, is you can get a signed emblem page signed by your favorite debaters. That's at the top right of the screen. And so again, that's actually knocked down to $40. So it is a way of supporting it. We do appreciate that more than you know. And not only that, but if you want a signed photo of your favorite debater, so for example, like Andrew Wilson, that's an option as well. That's another perk. Check out that Indiegogo. But I want to say thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for showing up to this debate. It was a fun time. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. We will see you at the next debate, which is this Saturday. I'll be hosting that. It's going to be amazing. Made by Jim Bob takes on PhD Tony on evolution. Whether or not there's evidence for evolution, you don't want to miss it. We'll see you there. Thanks, and have a great rest of your night.